When Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson returned to the field, fans behind the end zone chanted "no means no." However, the difference in coverage from two notable ESPN personalities showed the stark contrast.
There have been star quarterbacks accused of criminal behavior before, accused of inappropriate acts, but not like this. This isn't he said, she said, it's he said, they all said. Well over 24 women, 26 lawsuits filed. Graphic details that paint a sinister, planned, and habitual strategy to isolate and sexually abuse relatively powerless women.
That being Sam Ponder on ESPN's Sunday NFL Countdown.
You like that? Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Who knew Adam Schefter was hiding Chewbacca on his chest? You like that?
And ESPN's Adam Schefter.
When I first heard the early accusations, I'll admit I didn't believe it. I've known Deshaun Watson since his freshman year at Clemson, hugged his mom, interviewed him many times, and considered him a friend. I've only personally experienced him as kind, humble, and loving, and if I kept a list of players least likely to do something terrible, he would have been at the top. But as is always the case, those genuine feelings are judicially irrelevant.
Because, you see, while Ponder knocks this monologue out of the park, Schefter did what he always does when a player has accusations levied against them. He cowers and covers for them. We will show Schefter's despicable yet unsurprising display in a moment, but first, more from Ponder.
Are we privileged enough to not really have to think about it? Unaffected enough to just move on and cheer as long as he serves his purpose to win games and generate profit, right? He missed 11 weeks and paid a fine. He has not been convicted of anything, and he vehemently maintains his innocence, but he also apologized to the women he impacted. This isn't about admitting mistakes and promising to do better. We're all flawed, and we shouldn't require more out of a ball player than we do ourselves. But this is about whether or not Deshaun Watson is a serial sexual abuser. Unfortunately, we probably won't ever have any conclusive resolution, but this I do know. I am skeptical of literally anyone, including someone I know and care for, who won't admit to a sin that even the most pious among us haven't avoided. Deshaun said he's never disrespected a woman. Never? Maybe he should ask around. He won't have to look far to find a group that begs to differ.
While Ponder bravely did this on ESPN's airwaves, Schefter went another route, somehow managing to debase himself even further over the weekend. Continuing a long trend of poor judgment and water carrying for various NFL figures who don't need his help, Schefter wrote a Deshaun Watson puff piece that went up late Saturday night. Schefter would write in part, "Watson, who wasn't charged criminally, has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing and said people haven't been interested in hearing his side of the story." Schefter spoke with a source who said Watson's been progressing well and he wants to continue with it, and they feel it's helping him. It's just sort of ongoing as needed, and it'll be ongoing until it's not needed anymore. And I think it's given him a lot of help and support, but this could take a while, the source said. Longtime Sports Illustrated writer Jimmy Trana then asked very simply, who is they? What is the treatment? Why does Watson need help and support when he's not the victim? Why is Watson even in a treatment program when he claims total innocence? Schefter also tweeted the fluff piece with this above it. Deshaun Watson has made what NFL and NFLPA experts have described as signs of progress during his mandatory treatment program, per sources. He also added in the article, the program is considered confidential and Watson did not shed light on his treatment last week. He declined to address his treatment during his news conference last week, leading up to his return to play. But as one source pointed out, his clinician said he shouldn't comment on his treatment program and he's not allowed to get into his legal situation. Jay Rigdon of Awful Announcing responded as such, writing, "It's hard to read that second quote without coming to the conclusion that Schefter included it to try and help shield Watson from blowback with regard to how he's handled everything so far." Kaylin Collar of The Athletic chided Schefter, writing, "Since I know most people aren't going to actually read this article, I'll point out there's no description of what his program is, what he's doing in the program, or one example of how he's made progress. Also, the sourcing is vague. The idea that Watson's treatment program is confidential, except for the information his camp wants out there to try and smooth this over publicly, is such transparent image laundering that even someone as ethically unscrupulous as Adam Schefter should have thought twice. Recall Schefter's very defensive tweet of Deshaun Watson back in May. This is why Deshaun Watson, from the beginning, welcomed a police investigation. He knew that the truth would come out, and today a grand jury did not charge him on any of the criminal complaints, a dumb tweet he would later retract and apologize for. This is the same guy who bungled the Dalvin Cook DV case, and because his career and personal livelihood benefits from it, allowed himself to be used by Cook's team to tweet this. Schefter ran stories by former Washington team president Bruce Allen, writing, "Please let me know if you see anything that should be added, changed, tweaked. Thanks, Mr. Editor, for that and the trust. Plan to file this to ESPN at 6 a.m. Schefter has no journalistic integrity. He has shown it over and over again. And let's not forget Schefter's widely criticized interview with Greg Hardy, in which Schefter tossed softball after softball to Hardy, who was fresh off DV allegations, wrote Grace McDermott. He periodically takes one for the team because it serves the greater good of fueling his Twitter nuclear reactor. He'll tolerate the periodic meltdown as long as it keeps the lights on, and yes, it's unmistakable to the trained eye when he posts a quid pro quo tweet, wrote PFT. It's part of the deal he's done to build what he's built. The ultimate megaphone for letting the world know who's getting signed, cut, traded, hired, fired, whatever 5 minutes before it's formally announced. Lest we forget, there were ESPN employees who spoke on the condition of anonymity to the Washington Post when they did a piece on ESPN's Schefter, basically saying that he lacks the understanding of covering these very serious topics, stating it seems ESPN does not care, which appears to be true. But I would also say it's not just that ESPN doesn't care, it's that Adam Schefter does not care. This isn't going to get better. Clearly, Schefter doesn't care about doing things like this, and the only people with any oversight have turned into enablers, whether it's actively or passively. Schefter has 10 million Twitter followers and a platform with one of the biggest sports media companies in the world, and he uses it for journalism like this that no one was asking for outside of Watson's family, friends, and team. It's a disgrace.